Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news. Big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to a special edition of Big Hairy News on a Saturday night, which all feels a little bit weird. But we want to welcome, probably as the king big hairy person we've had so far, Adi with that beard, it's Adi Leason. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Pat.
Yes, it is a strange thing how people connect. About 14 years ago, Adrian and I, Adrian came and helped me make a little product that we were making. It was a product that we were making for the church, actually. Well, it was for anybody, but it was aimed at sort of some conversations inside of the church world. And then a couple of times in the last decade, I've tried to connect and we've tried to find one another sort of thing, and it hasn't quite happened. And then about a month ago, I heard this name of this young man, Sam Leason, and I went, oh, I know that surname, Leason. I know that there is a history of activism to that surname. And then I think I heard that the identifying factor of being an Otaki, and I'm like, that's 80s boy. That's 80s boy. Which is pretty exciting. Let me just show, it's a little bit embarrassing. Let me just show 14 years ago. This is more what we looked like. There is something that used to be me, and there is someone that used to be you. And this is the product that we made 14 years ago, which does promote, one very, very, very important question. Quite simply, where does Sam get all that hair from?
That's his mother. That's his mother's side. Very hairy family. From Upper Hutt. I'm not sure if that's relevant. But yeah, no, they've all got great hair. Shelley's dad, who recently passed, had a great head of hair right up to the end. So all credit to Mum's side, her genes.
Yeah. No, well, good for her. Now, listen, not too many lightness or silliness about this conversation. Your son, Sam Leason, is currently being held by the Israeli government after being, I think it is fair to say, abducted from a flotilla in international waters. And even though there's been a couple of crunchy people over the weekend saying not abducted, it's like taken from international waters. I mean, if that's not piracy, what is? And having connected again with you, kind of wanted to know a bit more about what's going on. We'll get to that shortly, but I'd really like to know from you and hear from you. You must have a mix of like fear and concern and proudness. How do those two things marry up inside you when you're thinking about what Sam's up to at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, they are both very present. It is a double-edged sword. There's a great deal of pride. There's a young man who is he's got a really well-developed moral compass. He's a formation, and he's worked out his own ideas. He's read and thought deeply. He's seeking to expand his own moral universe to include people and ideas that really expand him, expand his heart, expand his mind. So he is that guy, and I'm really proud of that. At the same time, there's been some, quite chilling announcements from Israel, particularly scary moments where the IDF are saying that the flotilla are Hamas-backed and are terrorists. Now, I don't know what universe that could possibly be true. But that's the kind of, those are the talking points of the IDF. They also talked about they are intending to attack, sink the ships, and flotilla. The host has unmuted your mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, cool.
I'm just trying to help the mic a bit. It's a little bit crackly on our end. I'm just seeing if I can help out a little bit. Keep talking though. I'm just staying
No.
staying on top of it.
Yeah. So that's scary stuff, because Israel have a fairly good track record of announcing their intentions and then making good on them. They're pretty straight up. Everything they've been doing in Gaza has been foretold, forewarned. They seem to be quite sticklers on this point. And so when they say, yep, we are going to treat you as terrorists and we're going to attack you, memory of the recent Turkish humanitarian vessel loaded with supplies and first aid, etc., and food, and manned by a crew of majority Turkish people. The boat was attacked, it was sunk, and these humanitarian activists were shot in the water. 10 people were killed and another 30 were severely injured. So when I'm hearing that, Shelley and I, Sam's mum and I, we're going, oh, that's suboptimal.
Yeah, we were talking about your history the other day, Adi, you personally being one of the Waihopai 3. And I know you're going to be incredibly humble and go, oh, that's not such a big deal. But, it does kind of feel like the acorn don't fall far from the tree. And you've got this young man now who is carrying on the Leason name in activism. And I was just thinking about, what does it? Did you guys do this as a family? How does the family come together and go, yep, we're behind this? Or did Sam go off and do this on his own, or how did that work?
Sam is engaged with us about his process and decision making. When he left, he worked over the summer. In fact, he built a little cabin, a little house over summer. He sold it. He bought a ticket to Morocco. He went to Morocco and got a job. Well, it's not really a job. He got offered a role, a position of working in an animal sanctuary, where his primary role was picking up donkey shit. That sort of did that 5 hours a day, and then the rest of the day, him and his buddy Koe from Raumati down the road, the school buddy, the two of them would go, to Morocco, into the town, and have a good time, and just be, young teenagers having an adventure. And so that's all going really great. He's been doing this for a month or two, and then he's definitely following the situation in Gaza, because few people aren't, because of its harrowing and horrendous the atrocities, etc., in the coverage. But there was talk of this a march was being proposed, and a whole lot of activists, regular folks who were just going to leave their day job and head to Cairo, and there load up trucks and buses and bags with powdered milk and medicine, and try and get across the Sinai Desert, past various Bedouin warring tribes, to the Rafah gate and enter Gaza from that southern border. And so these 3,000 people from across the world gathered in Cairo and spent a month, day after day, again and again, trying to get out onto the desert, trying to get past a roadblock. People got roughed up every time they got stopped, every time they got turned around. Samuel, it was kind of a masterclass, really, in a political education. 3,000 people there, some really experienced and talented humanitarians and activists, and people who really have given their life to caring for people who can't pay them back. And Samuel, he he was bringing his own life experience, his own family story to that, but it just took him to the next level. And after a month of doing that, he went up to Europe and went to some festivals with his sister and had a great time around Scotland, and led some Gaelic, had some Gaelic wānanga in the Scottish Highlands, and did some cool stuff. And then the call came: a flotilla is being planned. Come down to Barcelona. So he used his last of his money, got down to Barcelona, and he was invited to join the flotilla. Supposedly, there were 10, I've heard 10, 20, and even 30,000 applications or inquiries to join the flotilla worldwide. And so they had this huge screening program. Samuel asked a few people, well-known New Zealand activists, John Minto, Nikki Hager, to write letters of commendation, and they did. And then both those chaps got phoned up by the organisers to say, Samuel, is he good to go? And they backed him, and then he was accepted. He was on a boat, and they set sail.
Wow. And you said there was 10 to 50,000, whatever it was, 10, 30,000 applicants. And right now, as we sit here, this is from the flotilla's website. It says there's about 460 people being held captive. So it sounds like of that 30-ish thousand, whichever the right number is, about 600 got accepted. And of that, there are currently 458 being held captive and 4 that have been freed, of which 1 being held captive is Sam. You've already told me the story of the news you got today. We've heard Chloe Swarbrick online today talking about there's been some word from the New Zealanders there. But do you want to tell the whānau the story you told me about driving into Wellington today and the phone call you got? And especially, I've teased this a little bit because I am a media person, the message, because you got a message from Sam to deliver to his mum. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're heading into a Free Palestine rally, a march in Wellington City, and we're going on the motorway through the transmission galley with reception a bit dodgy. The phone rings, unlisted number, answer it, and it's MFAT. And a staff worker called Karen, who I'd been talking to on other occasions, said, good news, the POMs have successfully got to the detention centre and are, one by one working their way through as many people as they can, and they've found, they found your boy Samuel, and they've spoken to him, and they've checked on him, they've made sure he's okay, and they said, do you have a message, message for your family, and so the British High Commission and their consulate staff got a message from Samuel, and they passed it on to MFAT, and then MFAT passed it on to us. And the message was, message for Mum, can I have nachos when I get home? I think his sense of humour or his sense of appetite, both are obviously in good shape, even though he's, at the time, I think he was zip tied with his hands behind his back, and he's been forced to kneel for a period of 5 hours, along with all the other detained humanitarian activists. And unfortunately, the IDF, who have a long and storied history, as you mentioned, of inhumane treatment, they were not provided with water or toilet facilities or medical or medications during this ordeal. And this is all part of trying to disincentivize people from being involved in something like this.
Yeah, making an example of them. But what you've just described, kneeling for 5 hours, zip tied behind his back, no water, no ablutions. I don't like, me, Adi, I don't like being kind of dramatic for the sake of it, but that's torture. That's what that is. So
Well, it's even worse. Then they get into the psychological stuff. There's even a video up at the moment where the Minister of Defence, who I think is a complete psychopath, absolutely batshit crazy. He's walking amongst the detainees and calling them terrorists and saying, "We've got you now. You're terrorists." And so getting into their heads, messing with them, and it's that sense of humiliation. You're tied, you're bound, you're restricted, and you're on your knees on some concrete floor in some huge hall, and this guy's walking around gloating over you and humiliating you and saying lies about you. So it's all part of that that kind of psychological breaking down of these regular citizens, and these citizens all have better things to do. All of them would rather be doing other stuff, and they're only there for one reason. It's because in our case, our government is it's asleep at the wheel, sitting on its hands and doing absolutely nothing, and it's tragic because our wonderful, storied and illustrious history of standing up for the underdog, fighting for justice and peace, and taking principled positions, even when many in the world did not get it. We were early adopters, anti-nuclear, women's rights, indigenous rights, anti-Springbok tour, apartheid, resistance. The list goes on and on. And here we have some clowns running this country and throwing that wonderful legacy in the mud. It's absolutely, it's just so disgraceful and humiliating.
I was going to ask you at one stage, Adi, what you thought of the government and if you had a message for them. I think you've just done that. I think you've passed that message on pretty clearly. You've spoken to MVAT. They spoke to their British counterparts. You got that message coming back to you. When you say he's in a detention centre, I mean, not to split hairs, is it a prison? Is it a detention centre? Because they feel like two very different things. Do you know?
Yeah, somewhere I've got the name written down. I think I've lost a bit of paper. It's again, it's semantics. I mean, you can call it a prison. It's a huge facility. It's probably described as a warehouse. There'd be a warehousing in this facility. I understand. I'm not sure if they're all here, but currently, Israelis hold 10,000 Palestinians in cages without trial. So they've been captured, rounded up, and put in these giant warehouses, and there they rot. And with no, and they're just really there as a bargaining chip. And every now and again they'll trade, 500 for an Israeli who's caught by Hamas. So that's why they're there. And so Samuel and these others have been thrown into this facility. It's on the southern border. It's actually not far from Gaza itself on the Israeli side, and also not far from the Egyptian border. So it's in that southern kind of corner in the Nabak Desert. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Anyway, Google it.
Yeah, I'll Google it. Where to from here? Have you had any information from MFAT? What is the best case scenario here? What are MFAT and their English counterparts saying I guess we have to be careful and say potentially the next step, because this is people who will, take people out of international waters illegally. So we're all saying, hoping, what is the next best case scenario for the detainees, obviously including Sam?
The best case scenario, and this is something that the MFAT have said, this is what everyone, all the different nationality, all of their different consulate staff are all working to try and secure chartered flights for all of the activists, for all of the Sumud flotilla participants, as you mentioned the number before. So they're looking at getting 2 planes, 458. They're looking at chartering 2 planes, and one with a view to go to Madrid and one to London. So this is an early plan, and as you said, we'll believe it when we see it, but hopefully everyone is working to that. And I can see it. It could be a win for Israel, because this is a major embarrassment, and it's clogging up the whole system. How do you deal with nearly 500 people from 40 different countries who are there with the eyes of the world on them? Yeah. Ordinary folks saying our government is not doing their job. All our governments are failing, and meanwhile, we're seeing the most heartbreaking scenes on our TV every evening on the news. And so we've got involved, and that's a big problem for Israel. So get them on the first chartered flight out and be rid of them.
Just one last question, more about Sam. As I said, we did this thing 14 years ago. There you are, there, sexy man that you are, talking about war. It feels obvious to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a good portion of what you were talking about back then, I don't know, things may have changed, sort of come from a faith-based position for you. It sort of came out of this is the Jesus character that you recognized then. Is there any of that flowing into Sam? Has he got his own kind of convictions as to why he is a person who goes and fights for the vulnerable and will stick up to the bully now? What's it all about for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question to ask him, and I know you will.
Okay.
And I'd be pretty curious to hear his answer. As a family, he's one of 8 kids. We go to weekly mass around the corner at Puki Karaka in Otaki. We have family prayers, and we're involved in a whole lot of different expressions of our Christian faith. So I had no idea that he may have been listening all of these years, but it appears that maybe there may be something sort of got through. Maybe he's done a bit of reading of his own. I don't want to give too much credit to Kapiti College, but it's a fine institution, and maybe the NCEA is not so bad after all. It can create humanitarians and people who care, and who are willing to put themselves out there for others without reward. Maybe an 18-year-old, maybe Samuel Leason could school our current leaders on the difference between right and wrong. Who knew there was a difference, and an 18-year-old seems to have worked it out.
I interviewed Pete Bethune once. Pete Bethune, who was the skipper of the Adi Gill that would go down and harass the whalers in the Southern Ocean. I interviewed him not long after he got bitten by the poisonous snake. I think it was in Costa Rica or something, and he was feeling quite reflective. Pete Bethune gets paid speaking fees to speak to all these Fortune 500 companies, Adi. I thought about you this afternoon when I thought of this story. And when I was interviewing him, one of the things he says is he speaks to these Fortune 500 CEOs, these rich and powerful men, and he goes, "What did you achieve in life?" And they start talking about their kids. I had children, and he goes to them, "It's not enough." And I've kind of thought, well, that's really interesting, because what he's saying is everyone can have kids. But I did kind of feel today, Adi, for you it feels like, you've done far more than that, but perhaps for you it is enough, because what's come from you and his mum seems to be something that it feels like, without you, there wouldn't be this generation via your son and onwards. So I just thought for the first time, and I've often thought about Pete Bethune's comment with that, because he's kind of going, anyone with sperm and he can have the kids. They don't have to be special. But I think when you get some special kids, maybe that can still be enough. So I'm really impressed. And the last question I want to ask you is, Mum got a message that you don't want the nachos. And you guys, I'm sure, have been getting the official messages on Instagram. If he was watching this, what would you say to him?
Well, I think I'd want to say that in a sense it's mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. What this group of Samut Fatila activists have achieved is something quite special. I mean, I don't want to go as far as to say that they are facilitating one of those remarkable wake-up moments. The Rainbow Warrior was a wake-up moment. We are not the same country. The Springbok Tour was one of those moments. We're not. No one's going to say, "Oh, let's go and play sport within an apartheid country again." We're not going to do that.
Yeah,
because we did it, and we had the tour, and it changed. We're not going to say, "Oh, let's reintroduce homosexual law reform." No, that fight has been had, and it was won, and we're not going back. We're not going to say, "Oh, let's go nuclear free." Maybe we didn't give it a good shot. Let's go nuclear free. That fight has been fought and won, and I don't think Israel can come back from this. I don't think Israel can say, "Oh, we're the victims," and support us and relate to us. I think they've lost, and I think the Palestinians have won. It's just a matter of time. Israel has lost, but no one's told them. They don't know. They don't know they lost. But when you lose legitimacy, when homosexual law was illegitimate, it had lost. When nuclear testing in the Pacific was going on, but it lost its legitimacy, the cause was lost. And you can go through all of these things. When something loses its legitimacy, it is then a lost cause, and it's just a matter of time. Samuel and his mates and their whole crew, he's just a little tiny underling, the youngest little chap in the whole crew, but he can sit there in his cage, and hopefully he's got a smile on his face to say, "Hey, we have won something in this struggle, because we have shown the world that it is illegitimate to genocide. It's illegitimate to starve and murder and shoot and bomb a whole population of 2.3 million people in an open-air prison and bomb them to hell and destroy 90% of their buildings. That is illegitimate. No one can do that." And I think they should all be sitting there having a totally miserable time in their cage, but with somehow deep down a smile saying, "We've done good."
AD, it is amazing to talk to you. People in the chat are all saying the same thing. I'm very grateful to have connected with you again. We'll wrap the show up here. That's it. We're done. But don't you go anywhere, because I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes afterwards. But thank you for joining us tonight. This community that we have at BHN, like someone said in the chat as it scrolled past, proud of my boy. Like they have ownership in this. They feel like, Sam is an extension of them, meaning they are on board, maybe figuratively, not literally, because they weren't on the boat. But I think that I thank you. This community thanks you, and really excited to have reconnected with you again. And we will be sticking close, and obviously all thoughts and prayers. Is that what they say in America? I don't know, for your son as things are going on, but also anything we can do. I mean, any of those posters and stuff that you're seeing around that say contact MFAC, email the Prime Minister, email Minister of Foreign Affairs, put some pressure on the New Zealand government to do the right thing, because like you said, Adi, your boy can come back and can teach these politicians a thing or two about the right thing to do, and we can have his back by putting the pressure on right now from this end. So that's what I think I'll leave all of us with, and just say it's so lovely to chat with you, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch and keep talking.
Great. Thanks, everyone.